These next few that we have on the list here are kind of similar, so we could probably talk about it at the same time, which is a compost. It's a fungal compost, and then there's also fish compost. I thought it'd be a good opportunity to kind of talk about compost overall and the differences between the two.
Yeah, so compost is a whole podcast in and of itself. Making the compost, determining the quality of the compost, it can vary dramatically depending on what the original feedstocks were, how the material was actually compost. Was it thermophilically compost, meaning it killed all the weed seeds and all the pathogens? Was it processed long enough that the nitrogen cycled? There's a lot of things that go into this. So just be aware. I guess the big takeaway is that not all composts are created equal. You want to source a high quality one. In general, composts tend to be lower in fungi than bacteria. And so, we call ours a fungal compost for one of the ones on our website, because we're adding food sources to feed fungi to get a more balanced ratio there. That being said, really just make sure that your source of compost is clean, because compost is going to be your biggest contaminant in your grow in terms of heavy metals and in terms of pests and pathogens. So pretty much all pests and pathogens can be avoided in compost if it's properly thermophilically composted, with the exception of fungus gnats. Anytime you bring organic matter like compost into your grow space, you're potentially adding fungus gnats. So it's always a good idea to have a plan for that, like BTI or SF nematodes, something along those lines.
So when a consumer is looking to purchase some compost, you said look for a high quality one. Is there something like in the product listing that they can look for, I should say, to identify whether or not it is a quality compost?
Yeah, it's a little bit complicated. Every compost manufacturer should be able to provide you with a chemical analysis of their product, which they're required by law to have just to sell as a commercial compost. And that'll tell you some key information like C to N ratio, that carbon to nitrogen ratio, to show you that material is fully composted, that it's free of pathogens. They'll have that testing. What they don't really have for you, which I think is also important, is sort of what are the physical properties of that compost. So how much large particulate is in it? How well screened is it? Because that can affect the physical properties of your soil when you add it. And then the other thing is the biological properties of that compost. This is a time when I like to break out the microscope and throw the compost under there and just make sure that I'm seeing all sets of functional microorganisms in decent quantities. And that's really the best way to do it, is sort of all three of those things, and then do a germination test as well. If you're not going to do all that, then you really have to rely on the manufacturer or the supplier to be giving you accurate information, or that you trust that what they're providing is going to be good, or maybe a buddies or things that have tried it. But keep in mind, with every compost that you add, or even compost extract or compost tea, you're adding some fertility, usually nitrogen and potassium, and you want to account for that in your re-amending process so you don't overdo it.
This clip is brought to you by AC Infinity. Use discount code MrGrow at 15 to save on any of their products.